Are you all ready? Press ready. Good morning. I am Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Lanita Baker and Attorney Sam Aguiar, as well as associate attorneys with my firm, Elizabeth White and Attorney Nabiha Shear. We have the honor of representing the family of Breonna Taylor, who, as many of you know, yesterday marked 2 years since she was tragically taken from us. Her mother, joined with strong Black women advocates all across America, come to Washington, D.C. to proclaim that they will get justice for Breonna Taylor. Those groups include Janice Mathis, who is the executive director of the National Council of Negro Women, whose building we are standing in front of, as well as Melanie Campbell, who is the head of the Black Women's Roundtable, and certainly a young woman who is becoming a civil rights leader to be reckoned with all over these United States. Tamika Mallory, and Until Freedom bought 18,000 signatures that she will talk about why Department of Justice should acknowledge that there's work yet to be done on behalf of getting justice for Breonna Taylor. So you will hear from these women, and then you will hear from Attorney Lanita Baker and myself, and the mother of Breonna Taylor, Tamika Palmer, with our reflections of meeting with the Department of Justice this morning, as well as things that have transpired recently in the journey to justice for Breonna Taylor. But before we have any of those women speak to you, we're gonna have the First Lady Emeritus of Washington, D.C., Miss Cara Masters Berry, the wife of Mayor Marion Berry, the iconic Marion Berry, Mayor of Washington, D.C., first welcome us. Ms. Berry.
Thank you, Attorney Trump. I just want to take a second to welcome back the freedom fighters. Welcome back, Tamika Mallory. Welcome back, Until Freedom. Welcome back, Tamika. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of girls. And every time I hear Breonna's name, my heart hurts. And I'm not going to stop being with them, praying with them, fighting with them, doing petitions with them until justice is done. Until justice is done. So keep coming back. Keep coming back. You're welcome here at all times to the House of Freedom, National Council of Negro Women. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. And it's extremely appropriate that we're standing here at the National Council of Negro Women building, standing on the legacy of Mary McLeod Bethune, because we know the struggle it is for Black women to get the recognition and the justice they deserve. As I bring up, we are forever reminded, Tamika Mallory, of what Malcolm X said, that the Black woman is the most disrespected, the most neglected, and the most unprotected person in America. And since America hasn't been protecting Black women are protecting themselves. So we give you Miss Janice Mathis, the executive director, a great civil rights leader in her own right, to address you on behalf of this quest for justice for Breonna Taylor.
Yes, Miss Janice.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
You've heard this building referred to as a house of freedom. We also think of it as a house of justice. There's a Department of Justice down the street. It was established by President Grant, frankly, to protect recently freed people who had been enslaved. And we are still seeking justice to this day. When I think about Breonna Taylor, yes, my heart hurts because I'm a mom and a grandmother. But the National Council of Negro Women represents more than 2 million women across this country in 32 affiliated national organizations, many of which you are familiar with. So we know this is all of our business. The thing that bothers me the most about it is that Americans have the right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure in their homes, the right to peaceable enjoyment of your home, to have your home invaded, to not know in the middle of the night. And in other communities, people talk about standing their ground and the right to bear arms, but seems like those rights are not equally applicable to women of color and black women. So yes, we want to see a prosecution because this is hate. The warrant was flawed. The warrant was based on perjury. The officers had no business being where they were. That compounds the injury and screams for justice. So welcome to NCNW. I am so in awe of Tamika Mallory. So grateful to be associated with the Black Women's Roundtable and with Cora Mastersberry, and so heartbroken for Breonna's mom. That's why we're glad that you're here, so that you can help us. You're the fourth estate. Justice dies in darkness. It lives in the light.
That's right. That's right.
Well said, Janice Mathis, and thank you again for your hospitality to Breonna's mother and the other leaders assembled today. Next, we will hear from the convener of the Black Women's Roundtable, Melanie Campbell, and how appropriate that we have her here talking about Breonna Taylor at the Black Women's Roundtable. A great force of nature, Miss Melanie Campbell.
Thank you, attorney, and my brother, Ben Crump. Thank you, Tamika, Until Freedom, of course, my mentor and my friend and my leader, Cora Mastersberry, and my sister, Janice Mathis, and we're standing on hollow ground. This is Women's History Month. And so part of that is that we have had to make sure that that history that we talk about included Black women. And so Dr. Dorothy Irene Height mentored many of us here and so many, many more. And she put this building here on Pennsylvania Avenue between the White House and the Capitol. And in between that is the Department of Justice.
Come on.
And so we know Breonna Taylor. I'm Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
We are all Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
And so, Ms. Tamika, where is she? We are here. This is our first time formally meeting, but know that there are sisters all over this country who stand in solidarity, and brothers who stand in solidarity with you for your quest for justice, because your quest for justice is justice for all of us. Because any of us could have been Breonna in our homes.
That's right.
And if you take a moment and think about that you're in your home and all of a sudden your life is taken away from you in your home. And if there's no way in the law that provides the opportunity for justice, what is justice?
That's
Right.
right.
That's right.
And so I thank you for the opportunity and the honor to stand with you in your quest. And we're with you until justice is done. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Miss Melanie Campbell. And now, we're going to hear from the queen of this social justice movement that is going on in America, and that is one of the co-founders of Until Freedom. And when Melanie said about women's history, as we know, we just left Black History Month in February. And I could not help but think, Linda, about this isn't the first dangerous, unnecessary, unjustifiable unconstitutional, no, not one executed on black families in America in the wee hours of the night and morning, because it was Ayanna Stanley. I mean, a little black girl killed in Detroit, Michigan, when they busted open the front door. And Attorney Baker and I'll talk about this pattern, but it seems to me that until freedom, the activists are so necessary, because for some reason the message isn't getting to the top. And so we need loud voices like Until Freedom to get the message to the top, because had they learned from Ayanna Stanley, then we would not have had Breonna Taylor. Had they learned the history lesson for Breonna Taylor, we would not have Amir Locke. That was very similar. And I know Tamika Palmer understands what that family is going through more than anything, and hopefully we see this as a national issue and not just an issue for Kentucky, not just an issue for Minnesota. This is an American issue. And that's why we have the queen of this social justice movement who's been going all across America with Until Freedom. It's important to know they moved to Louisville, Kentucky. They moved there because they said it matters. It matters. Breonna Taylor life matters. Y'all, Miss Tamika Palmer. I know. And they spell that name the same way.
Yeah, we do, the right way.
Tamika Mallory.
Thank you.
Until Freedom. Until Justice for Breonna Taylor. Tamika Mallory.
Thank you. Come on. Thank you. Good morning and afternoon, and thank you all so much for showing up today, and for my big sisters coming to flank Tamika Palmer and show that there is big support, real support, major support for this mother. And also that Until Freedom, when we call Janice Mathis, Cora Mastersberry, Melanie Campbell, and so many, they show up. And while there may be a few of us standing here, we represent millions. We represent millions. Melanie Campbell she spoke and she was very modest. But this is a woman who convenes powerful black women all across this nation. And we have met here at this headquarters over the years fighting for justice. And so this was the most appropriate place for us to be this morning. My brothers and the co-founders of Until Freedom are standing here holding the petitions that we will deliver to the Department of Justice today. Over 18,000 signatures.
That's right.
Where people across this nation are saying we have not forgotten Breonna Taylor. That we will continue to stand up for Breonna until justice happens. You know, 2 years ago when Breonna Taylor was killed, it was not just a tragedy for Black America. It was a tragedy for America. This entire nation should have and has stood still at times, having to face how Breonna Taylor was murdered. Because Breonna Taylor was murdered in her home. And there's a difference. There's a difference between saying someone was killed and saying that they were murdered.
That's right.
And the reason why we say murder, as Janice Mathis has already laid out, is because a man lied. He lied, and the postmaster said that there was lies in terms of whether or not packages were going to her home that were suspicious. He said it was a lie, that there was no report of suspicious packages going to Breonna Taylor's home. And so a lie is what was used to murder a black woman, a young black woman in her home, and to traumatize a young black man. We cannot forget that Kenny Walker was also in the home. They were laying in the bed sleeping. The police woke them up without giving any acknowledgement of who they were and a warning of who they were, and they were afraid. And while Kenny Walker walks the streets every day, he is scared. He is traumatized, and he misses the woman that they were planning on having a child together. This is a human rights issue.
That's right.
What we are talking about today.
That's right.
Until freedom moved for 4 months of our lives to Louisville, Kentucky, leaving our families in the middle of a pandemic where most of us, I don't know how Angelo didn't, but the rest of us contracted COVID. We were supposed to be protected and home with our families, but instead we risked our lives, and many people, those standing here, supported us, and others, the local residents of Louisville, Kentucky, were in the streets every single day, some of them living in Justice Square so that they could continue to fight for this young woman.
That's right.
This is a human rights issue. And we, as a community, are traumatized because nothing has been done. Now, let me say, there was actually something that happened. I misspoke. Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General
Talk about
in Kentucky, cheated this family.
Yes,
He
sir.
also is a liar.
Yes.
And the jurors themselves have come forward to say that they were lied to and that there were no charges for Breonna Taylor properly presented for them to make a decision on whether or not they wanted the cops indicted in their state.
Talk about it.
That's what the jurors say. It's not what the activists are making up. The jurors themselves came forward to say they were waiting for charges. Am I lying? Am I wrong? They were waiting for charges to be presented for the murder of Breonna Taylor, and it did not happen. And the more callous thing is that when there was a call put out to this family to show up so that they could hear what was going to happen with the verdict, Attorney Lanita Baker, Attorney Sam Aguiar, and Tamika Palmer told Daniel Cameron's office directly, please do not have us drive over an hour to hear that there are no charges. Just leave us at home. There was already enough pain and anxiety, and instead he had this woman drive all the way to Frankfurt so that she could hear that the only charge was a charge for shots going into a wall and not into her daughter. This is a human rights issue. And we are depending on the Department of Justice that we as black women help to be in the position that they're in, to bring charges against these officers. I watched Attorney General Merrick Garland swell up with tears when he spoke about Ahmaud Arbery. I saw it in him, the emotion, where he said he can't imagine what this young man went through. Well, we are crying. We are crying, Attorney General. We are crying for Breonna Taylor, and we demand that you take those tears and turn it into action and make sure that the ink of your pen strokes for justice for Breonna Taylor. Charge the cops. Charge the cops. Charge the cops.
Charge the cops. Right.
Thank you very much, Tamika Mallory, Until Freedom, for your efforts. I mean, what a commitment to move to Louisville to fight for justice for Breonna. Before you hear from the mother of Breonna Taylor, Tamika Palmer, I think it's appropriate for Attorney Lanita Baker and I to talk about the reason that we're here today and we met with the Department of Justice. You know, not only did yesterday mark 2 years, but last week, the only officer charged by the Attorney General's office in Kentucky, Brett Hankinson, was found not guilty for shooting into the ceiling, not for shooting Breonna, but for shooting into the ceiling.
Oh.
And it was very troubling. And so we came here at the request of Tamika Palmer to meet with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division to get a reaffirmation that what happened in Kentucky what many of us believe was a miscarriage of justice would not impact their investigation until looking at what civil rights violations were denied to Breonna Taylor's right to live and breathe and exist as an American citizen. And so we got an affirmation that the Department of Justice is not swayed by what happens with state charges. They have a different purview to protect the civil rights of every American citizen. And I will tell you, Melanie Campbell, Breonna Taylor was an American citizen. She is deserving of every promise that the Constitution guarantees to every citizen. And so we talked for about 45 minutes about their investigation and how serious they are taking this investigation. Understanding the caveats that unlike Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd tragic killings, that there are no video, but they said, be not dismayed. They're turning over every stone, looking at any civil rights charges on behalf of Breonna Taylor, because they would do the same for any citizen. And the fact that there is pattern and practice aspects that they have to look at as well, that they were looking under every stone, dotting every I, and crossing every T, because Breonna deserves it. And that is, and you hear from Tamika Palmer, it was so emotional when she said, my daughter Breonna did not deserve this. All these legalese and all these technicalities we're talking as lawyers, what she knows is her daughter did not deserve to be executed in her own home, almost naked. She did not deserve this. And I think the message was very straightforward and clear, not from us lawyers, but from Tamika Palmer. Before we bring Tamika Palmer up, I want to have my most able co-counsel, one of the best lawyers that I have worked with in the United States of America. And I've worked with a lot of them, Tamika Mallory, but I'll say without a doubt, Attorney Lanita Baker is one of the best that we have to offer society. And not only is she a good lawyer, a good black lawyer, she is also a black mother who understands the pain, unlike some of us can't understand it. A black mother understands the pain more than anybody else what Tamika Palmer is going through. So my co-counsel, Attorney Lanita Baker.
Thank you, Attorney Crump, and I want to thank my sisters, Melanie Campbell, Janice Mathis, Cora Mastersbury, and of course my sister, Tamika Mallory, for being here to support us this morning. We came and we met with the Department of Justice today because it's been 2 years and 1 day. 2 years and 1 day that Tamika Palmer has had to wait for justice for Breonna Taylor. Wow. Years have gone by, no word from the Department of Justice on whether or not there will be an indictment, just that they're investigating. We get updates that the investigation continues. In recent months, we've seen trials for George Floyd. We've seen trials for Ahmaud Arbery, and justice being sought in those cases and obtained in those cases. And Tamika Palmer, while happy for the families of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery in getting justice, sits here and she wonders, why do I still have to wait? Why do I still have to wait on not a trial, but to even know if there will be charges?
That's right.
Especially in knowing what everyone knows, that the officers lied to get this search warrant, that the officers have lied about announcing themselves. That's been shown twice. That the officers have repeatedly tried to cover up what happened on that night by making Breonna the enemy, by trying to get her ex-boyfriend to plead and include her in the plea paperwork. So prosecutors have not only failed Tamika Palmer, they betrayed Tamika Palmer in Kentucky. So we know we're not going to get justice as it sits in Kentucky with the prosecutors we have at the helm. And so that our only choice of justice, and it should not take 2 years, is with the Department of Justice. And so as we were talking about what do we do to mark the 2-year mark of Breonna Taylor being murdered, is to meet with the Department of Justice and let us know just what to expect, and laying out the case of why you need to charge for Breonna Taylor and why it's appropriate to charge in the case of Breonna Taylor. Because you've heard, they violated the Fourth Amendment of Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker. The officers need to be charged, they deserve to be charged, and we should not be here next year asking for the same charges to be brought. 18,000 people, over 18,000 people have signed a petition for the Department of Justice to bring charges. There's ample evidence out there to bring charges. While we understand that the investigation may continue, we don't understand the why it's taken so long. And so we would ask that you treat this case with time is of the essence, because Tamika Palmer should not be made to wait for 2 years and 1 day to get even a semblance of justice for Breonna Taylor.
Thank you, Attorney Baker. And now you will hear from a mother whose heart is very heavy. Again, all these legalese and technicalities and talks of consent decrees, it's foreign to her. But what is known to her is that her daughter was executed by the very people who were supposed to protect and serve her in Louisville, Kentucky, and that the state officials in Kentucky did not hold anybody accountable. And so you're going to hear from her now, and then we'll try to take a few of your questions. Ms. Tamika Palmer, the mother of Breonna Taylor.
I echo everything that's already been said, but the most important thing is to remember that Breonna didn't deserve this. That she was at home, in her own home, minding her business, when these people kicked in her door and murdered her. For the nation, it's been 2 years and 1 day. For me, I'm trapped in March the 13th, 2020. I don't know how people think I should just move on, that I should just walk away from this thing. Half my life has been spent being Breonna's mother. It's the only thing I've learned to do well in my life. It's the thing that I'll die fighting for. Fighting to make sure she gets justice. Fighting to make sure people remember that she deserves justice. Fighting to remember that Kentucky failed her. Daniel Cameron failed her. Daniel Cameron has failed the world, though, as I knew he would. I never had hope in him. I prayed, though. So now I'm here at the Department of Justice, asking them to do the right thing. Because now, this is bigger than Breonna. If no one addresses this issue, they'll keep kicking in our doors and murdering us. And it's not right.
It's not right.
At all. So how many times do we have to do this? How many years are we gonna have to stand up here and beg for people to do the right thing? To continue to say that we mattered, that Breonna mattered. Just know that I'll continue to show up. I'll continue to knock down these doors, and I'll continue to have people say her name and remember that she was murdered in her house, and she didn't deserve it.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Thank you so much, Tamika Palmer, for bearing your heart. At this time, we'll try to take a few of your questions. And I think Tamika Mallory wants to make an announcement before we take the questions.
At 12 noon, we will deliver the 18,000 signatures to the Department of Justice on Constitution Avenue on 10th Street. So at 12 noon, we will be taking the petitions over. You all are welcome to join us if you would like to witness the delivery. And of course, Tamika Palmer will be joining us.
And it's in walking distance, as I understand. It's right there. We just left it this morning. Your questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi, this is East Robinson, ABC News. You mentioned that you guys met with them this morning. What would be the next steps following this meeting?
Well, after having the 45-minute meeting, they have affirmed that they're doing a thorough investigation. And so, as Attorney Baker said, we don't want to have to come next year this time and still not have decisions made. You know, you have to think about it from the perspective of the black community. Their charges brought against us with a lot less. And so we hope that they are just as zealous in holding these police officers who killed Breonna Taylor accountable as they are with people in the black community. And so that's what we relayed in our message, and that, you know, we want them to be as zealous as possible and acknowledge their historic prosecutions previously this year, because I know in my 25 years being a lawyer, I haven't seen the federal government engaged in this manner of bringing these prosecutions against people who have unjustly killed our children. Yes, ma'am.
Can you just say more specifically who you met with at the Department of Justice and if they gave any indication of a timetable for making a decision? And then secondly, for Ms. Palmer, you described this being an emotional meeting, but did you feel heard in that meeting today?
Okay. I'll just answer first. We met with Kristen Clark, the head of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, and members of her department, and some in person, some telephonically, who were back in Kentucky working on the matter. And it lasted for 45 minutes, and in that meeting, they talked a lot about different aspects of things they're looking at that they can't get into with the public, but they affirm that they are looking under every stone at every possible civil rights violation that could have happened that led to the death of Breonna Taylor. And Lanita, you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay.
For me, it wasn't about what I felt from them. They needed to feel from me that I'm not done.
Yeah.
So that's what it was for me.
Real good.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Lanita, I would be curious to know what you thought of the prosecution's strategy in the Brett trial.
Personally, as a former prosecutor, I did not see a prosecution that wanted to get a conviction.
Well said. Any other questions?
Did they give any indication on the status of the patterns and practice investigation into the Louisville Police Department, that would be wrapping up, or there's any indication on that end?
No indication of when it will be wrapping up. Only they affirm that they are looking at every aspect of any civil rights violations from the top to the bottom. Yes, ma'am.
And then if you could just speak a little bit to the reaction that they had, or the reaction that you had leaving the meeting, and how they reacted to your request.
Well, we're not mind readers, so we won't get into that there. But I think what Tamika Palmer said was most appropriate. That they felt her, that they heard from her directly, that she reminded them Breonna was a real person. And I think General Clark at her office, it was very emotional sitting there listening to Ms. Palmer say, I was denied justice in Kentucky, and now I'm here at the nation's capital at the Department of Justice saying, will you all help deliver some measure of justice, because Breonna did not deserve this. That was the most compelling thing said in her first comments to the Department of Justice officials. Breonna did not deserve this. All that legalese you all are talking about, just know my daughter did not deserve to be killed like this by the police. And I know we need to get over to deliver the petition. So if you all have any other questions, press at bencrump.com, and we'll keep you updated the moment we hear anything. Justice for Breonna Taylor.
Thank you.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.